What's going on? My name is Louie Cortese. I'm 23 years old from a little town called Groveland, Florida. I am blessed with the opportunity to ride a children's bike and get to glorify God through that. But it's crazy because this wasn't the plan for my life originally. When I was 3 years old, I started riding dirt bikes. My dad put me on one, and from the age of 3 to about 18, we traveled everywhere, side by side, riding dirt bikes and racing and getting to race against some of the best riders in the world. What's crazy is I thought that that was going to be my life. I thought that was it. I'm going to be a dirt bike rider. About when I was 11 years old, I ended up taking a really nasty fall, and it changed a lot of things. It changed our perspective on, should we really be doing this? I ended up breaking every rib on my side, and my rib went through my spleen, and I ruptured my spleen, and I had internal bleeding in my stomach. And I felt like for the first time my dad really realized, you know what, I don't know if we should be doing this. But by determination and craziness, we continued. And it might sound weird, it might sound crazy, but later on we realized that God had a completely different plan for me. Just to show you where the seed was planted and where I am now, when I was 6 years old, my mother and I, and my brother and my cousin, we tried to get into this event. And it was on the beach somewhere in Fort Lauderdale, and it was this Christian event. And I remember it was a super rainy, crazy day, and so many people were there, and we couldn't even get in. But the only thing I got to see was this skate park that was made on the beach, and it was some of the best old school OG guys performing basically in the rain. They're psychos. But all the picture that we have of me from that day is me just all smiled, cheesed up, with a big thumbs up, because I was so excited to see something different. That was when I was 6 years old. Flash forward until I'm 18 years old, traveling all over the world, getting to ride a dirt bike, side by side with my dad. My family ended up losing everything. Very wealthy family ended up taking a toll for the worst. So, what's the number one thing you need to ride a dirt bike? That's money. It's very expensive. I remember getting involved with some BMX kids because I felt as if I would have rode better, if I would have done better, if I would have won that race, if I would have tried a little bit harder, that my family would not have lost everything that they did. And I was at a very young age, right after being hurt, wanting to commit suicide because I felt so guilty that my family was dwindling. I started riding this BMX bike because I thought it was the edgy thing to do. I thought it was going to make me a little degenerate. I was going to be able to get in trouble and run away from God. But man, God definitely had a different plan. So actually, right where we are right now in this park, Lake David Park in Groveland, Florida, is where I was first introduced to BMX. And it's crazy because one of my buddies named Braden Meyer, I was riding by right here on this road biking, training, getting ready for more races, and this kid comes running out in front of me. I'm like, what's going on with this dude? Braden and I actually used to race against each other. And he's like, dude, come ride a BMX bike. And I'm like, no, man, that's not me. Like, I ride dirt bikes, just like you do. He was like, no, man, you'd have so much fun. Little did I know that was going to change my life forever. Him and I became best friends, and we just went everywhere together. We were running around this town, causing trouble left and right, being little degenerates. And slowly, as time went on, as I got better with BMX, I kind of thought maybe this could be something I do for a living. Maybe this could be something that God wants to use me for. Oh man. And he did. I remember in 2017, not too long ago, I was working a job that I wasn't stoked with. My time was only worth this much, and I was so aggravated, like cursed God's name. I'm like, man, I have all these amazing stories in my life, and I used to race dirt bikes every single day, and I've done so many cool things. Why is it that I'm just here? this is what my time is worth? God, if you're real, if you exist, can you just open the doors of my life and I will quit my job now and I will go wherever it is that you want me to go. James chapter 4, verse 14 through 15 says, "For who are you to say that you can go into such and such a town, trade there for a year, and make a profit? For what is your life? You're a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we can do this or that." That verse has stuck with me since then, because it's talking about your life as this little thing, poof, gone. You're here for a little time and then you vanish forever. Why not ask God for His will in your life? So I did. The next morning, I get an email from Monster Army asking if I would be a part of their program. I was stoked. I quit my job that day. I was like, I'm about to be sponsored. All right, God, that's you. Right after that, I remember putting in my Instagram bio, God, as the first thing, because we're supposed to put God first in our life. A guy by the name of John Andrus reaches out to me over Instagram and says, "Hey man, I stumbled upon your Instagram. How would you like to come do 2 weeks of shows with us in South Carolina?" Shows? What do you mean? And he explains to me this ministry team. These guys called the Stunt Dudes, and they do these festivals and they get to ride this little children's bike and glorify God doing that as an act of worship. One show turned into the entire year traveling with those dudes, and I felt like God called me exactly where I was going to be, and He showed me exactly what my purpose was. But it was never easy. Wherever there's good, there's evil, and I felt like I was living two different lives. I felt like I was riding for a show team that wasn't Christians, and then I felt like I was riding with Christians and I was living a completely double life. And that was really heavy on my heart up until recently. Something that was really crazy was that first year that I stepped out in faith and I said, all right, God, open the doors of my life and I'll take it and I'll go wherever you want me to go. I remember getting back from the first tour that I went on with those guys, and I just had gotten home and I was sitting there and I go up to my mom, I give her a big hug, and I'm like, man, it's so good to be home. I get a phone call from John, and he was hinting at this show that was a possibility for me to be able to come to, and it was this thing called City Fest, and apparently there's supposed to be like 70,000 people there. Lecrae's gonna be there, all these famous artists are gonna be there, all this stuff, and it's like next weekend. John calls me and he goes, hey man, we would really love for you to come. Let me know how you feel about it. I'm like in front of my mom. Just saw her and I'm about to tell her how much I love her and how I'm excited to see her, and I'm also about to tell her I'm about to leave again. I tell her there's this thing called City Fest that I got this opportunity to go to. Do you know what that is? And my mom just stopped. And she started to get like teary-eyed. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, do you know what City Fest is? I said, just a show? She goes, that was the show that you couldn't get into when you were 6 years old. And I like looked at her, I'm like, wait, what? The seed was planted in my life when I was 6 years old at an event that I couldn't even get into. That I remember experiencing BMX and skateboarding for the first time. Many, many years later, God blessed me with the opportunity to perform at that show. And it changed my life forever. Because I knew that God had His hand on my family and had His hand on my life, even when I didn't even realize He was there. I went 0 to 100 so fast. And from that moment, I've been this long-haired dude traveling across the country with so many different people, getting to share the gospel and getting to go into prisons and talk to people that are there for the rest of their life that never get to see someone go upside down on these things. I'm blessed with the opportunity to share a small part of my testimony that has such a big meaning. So many people look at me and they say, I wish I had your life. I wish I could do what you're doing. And it's crazy because I look at them, I'm like, that's exactly how I know that you don't. being used by God, being a vessel for God, it's one of those things where it's a lonely feeling. And it's tough and it's hard, and I'm not going to sugarcoat things acting as if my life is perfect, because it's not. Because the devil comes after me every single day personally, because he doesn't want me doing what I'm doing. I thought of myself as just a kid with a BMX bike, and God has used me to do bigger things than I could ever imagine. In Proverbs it says, never to lean on your own understanding, but trust in the Lord with all your heart, for he will make your paths straight. I felt like I was in a circle my entire life, and I felt like I had it figured out my entire life. But God. And now, where we're sitting, I know exactly where I'm supposed to be and exactly what I'm supposed to do. God has had his hand on my life ever since I was little, and I know he's going to do so many more amazing things with me. And the last thing I really want to say is, this isn't a miracle story. This isn't something that is planned. If God can use a 23-year-old long-haired kid from Florida that rides a bike for his will, then he can use anyone for anything for his will. We're all called to be disciples. We're all called to listen on Sunday and tell someone about it on Monday. But be prepared, because as soon as you let go and let God move in your life, you go to 0 to 100 real quick. My name's Louie Cortese. Thank you for listening, and keep on wandering.